Hello and welcome back to another Hitfilm tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can use the Chroma Key Effect, which is a really powerful tool for keying out green screens and other colour screens. The Chroma Key Effect can be found inside of Hitfilm Pro by default, because with Hitfilm Pro you get every effect, and with Hitfilm Express you have to buy the Composite Pro keying pack, which comes with the Chroma Key Effect. As you can see in the timeline, I have got this clip with me talking to the camera in front of a green screen. This actual clip was from my motion tracking behaviour tutorial, which you can find a link to in the top right hand corner, so if you want to go check that out, then you can go check that out. First thing that we're going to do is search in the Effects tab for Chroma Key. And now I'm going to drag and drop the Chroma Key Effect onto my footage. I'm going to go to the colour option, and then I'm going to grab the eyedropper tool and select part of the green screen which is fairly close to me. And as you can see, that has already keyed out of most of me. And if we go to the View tab, then you can see that we have a bunch of different options. The reason why I didn't just go straight into the View options is because otherwise there's not much difference when you swap between some of them. And if we go over to the View drop down and select Source, you can see that the green screen comes back. That's because at the moment we're just seeing the original unkeyed layer. But then if we open up the drop down and select Status, then you can see that we get a black and white matte. This makes it easier to see which areas are not fully opaque. However, this doesn't show areas of transparency. White areas are opaque and black areas are transparent, and all semi-transparent areas are displayed as one single tone. So the white areas here are fully opaque and the black areas are transparent, which actually makes you see how badly I did a key here, which when we toggle over to result it doesn't look too bad. I mean, there's a bit of spill here, but when you go over to status it shows a bit more of a clear view of what it actually looks like. Then if we go down to matte, you can see that we have a matte view, which provides an accurate view of opaque and transparent areas, with black being transparent, white being opaque, and kind of this grey colour being semi-transparent. Semi-transparent. And then if you also go over to view, you can choose to go with dispill mask. However, that only applies if you actually have a dispill mask layer being used, which I've never used on, but you might find that useful. Then if you go over to dispill map, then you can see which areas are being spill suppressed. White areas indicate where the spill suppression will be applied. This is where it will remove all the lingering parts of colour that you've chosen here. And then the final option in the view drop down is result, which basically just shows you the final key that you've got going on here. And it is important to know that whatever you choose on the view will actually impact the final results. So if you exported your footage out with the matte view, then you will have a matte view footage, not your result footage. These aren't just for while you're keying, but they can be useful for while you are just keying. I'm just going to leave it on result because then I can actually see what's happening. But I might be toggling through them, but now you know what the different modes are. Our second option is adaptive colour, and this is particularly effective when working with uneven green screens. And basically what this does is it aims to improve results in such cases and can be particularly effective in fine details. So it's quite useful. Then we've already used the colour option, but say if you wanted to select a different colour, you can. It doesn't have to be green, and you can also select a colour from the colour selection page thing when it appears when you click on the box colour. Then we move on to gain, and this is the base sensitivity of the chroma key. At the moment it's at 1, but you can increase it. And as you can see, as I'm increasing it, it's keying out more and more, and as I decrease it, it's keying out less. And also this will show you that the spill suppression is being applied because it's no longer green, it is now a weird white colour. And also it's important to note that if you have an adaptive colour enabled, then the gain controls will have less of an effect. They will still have a bit of an effect, but it won't have such an effect. So I'm just going to toggle back over to the map view and try and key out as much of the background as I can. And that's got rid of all of the background, although parts of me are starting to become semi-transparent, as shown by the map view. Then, if we go down to the balance and hue balance settings, then these will change the emphasis of the chroma key. So actually, as I decrease the balance, then you can see that the actual green is still being keyed out, but my t-shirt is not disappearing as it was when it was on a higher value. And you can also change the setting for hue balance as well. And actually that's done a really nice job of keying out me, but I'm just going to swap over to the map view, and as you can see, it's done a really good job. You can play around with these settings to get it so all of you, or all of your subject, is displayed in the black and white map view as being white. Then we have the pre-blur setting, which applies a blur to the footage prior to the keying, so it's not actually applying this afterwards, but it's actually applied before. So whatever changes you make here won't actually impact too much on the final key, and if you want to apply a post-key blur, then you can search in the effects tab for a blur effect. This can help with smoothing out lower resolution footage. I've never had to use it because I shoot in 1080, but if you are shooting with a camera that has a slightly lower resolution, then this could be really useful to you. Then, next up in the Chroma Key Effect, we have the matte controls. And starting things off, we have Clip Background. Clip Background will crush the black point of the matte so that more parts of the image are removed. If parts of your green screen are still visible, then this should be used to remove them. So I am just going to increase the gain and decrease the gain and kind of create a bit of a messy, rough key again, because I actually got a really nice clear key just by playing around with the balance and hue balance settings here. But if I start to increase the clip background, you can see that there is a small difference. I'm now just going to swap over to the map view so you can actually see what this is doing. So as you can see, we have more grey areas on the left side of the green screen and at the bottom, but as I start to increase clip background, then it will start to remove those areas. Although that is then also removing parts of my t-shirt, but then we can start playing around with clip foreground. Which now moves me on to clip foreground. Clip foreground clips the white part of the matte, returning detail to the foreground. So if parts of your subject are semi-transparent, you can reduce the clip foreground to make it fully opaque. And as you can see, I've got parts of me that are semi-transparent, or represented on the map view by some grey areas, but if I start to decrease clip foreground, you can see that those grey areas start to be removed and I become fully opaque. Then we have clip rollback. Clip rollback will be applied after you've adjusted your clip if you want to return some of the semi-transparency to the outer areas of your edges of your foreground. This can be useful if you're wanting to create some softer edges. However, if you increase this setting too much, it will cause like an undesirable band of semi-transparency around the edge. So this could be useful for some scenarios if you just wanted to have a slightly softer edge to your green screen footage. To show this, I'm just going to create a new plane layer. I'm just going to set it to white and move it behind. And as you can see, when I start playing around with the clip rollback setting, you can see that the edge is becoming softer and more transparent around the edge because I've increased that setting. But if you want a solid, hard edge, then you want to set that to 0. The gamma setting adjusts the strength of the key, which can be useful for adjusting the fine detail in the edges of the key, which can be useful particularly around like hair and semi-transparent parts of your image, which actually gets really nicely demonstrated here, which is between my arm and my t-shirt, where you can see that we kind of have this weird grey patch here, which if we go over to the map view, you can see it's still grey while the rest of the background is black. But as we start to increase the gamma, then you can see that that is being filled in. But if we start to decrease the gamma, you can see that it's turning more and more of that to black. And as you can see, this will also adjust the very edges by kind of removing as many of the small chunks as possible. You want to make sure though that you're not removing too much. your subject with this. Then we have the Erode and Expand tool, and if we start decreasing the erode amount, then you can see the outer edge is eating into me, and if we increase it, then it will start bringing back in some of the green screen. That can be useful if you need to remove pixels around the edge. So if you have this pixelated edge here, and then you just want it to kind of smooth out some of this just a tiny bit, you might want to set this to something like -3, which that might be a bit too strong, but as you can see, it has smoothed out the edge. Whereas if I can compare it to that, then you can see that it's a lot more pixely. Then we have Despot Foreground, which aims to remove holes in the background or foreground. Used subtly, this can improve overall keying quality without affecting edge detail. However, I kind of want these holes in the foreground because otherwise I'm a bit of a blob at the top here, because it's combining my arms with my body if I increase that, but it might be useful for some times. Then we have the Despot Background, which aims to despot the background, and then we have the Softness control, which creates a softer edge around the outside of your subject. And this is prior to applying the key, so it won't be mixing your green and your subjects. This will be playing with the alpha. I'm now going to move down to spill suppression. So the Chroma Key effect actually includes a built-in spill suppression effect. So even if you shot your clip really well, you will most likely have some form of spill. And our first setting under the spill suppression controls is it varies the strength of the spill suppression. There isn't that much of a noticeable spill on mine because I was standing quite far away from my green screen, but if you have got some really spill footage, then this could be really useful. You've also got hue range and balance and hue balance, and these are used to expand and contract the spill suppression area, which is best adjusted while in the Dispill map viewer mode. Then we have spill replacement. Spill replacement aims to reduce the unwanted spill within a new spill colour. And then we have Dispill mask. A specific layer can be used to manually define areas to be spill suppressed. Quite a lot of these will probably work best after you've done some trial and error, playing around with your green screen, your lighting setup, your camera, and seeing really what settings you need to use for your setup. Then our final setting down here is colour correction. And as you can see, we're just left with an enable setting. So if we just check this, you can see that we have some more settings. We have edge resize and foreground, edge and background. If we just go into the edge resize settings, edge resize can be played around with to change the softness and the grow of the edge, and then we have the colour wheels. Well, we have the foreground, edge and background controls. These wheels can be used to change the foreground, edge and background's hue, saturation and lightness, which can be adjusted separately. And you can use these colour wheels to adjust the colour of your subject and the edge, allowing for some colour correction in the key. Okay, so I hope you found this tutorial useful, and if you did, then please leave a like and subscribe, as that would be greatly appreciated. If you have any suggestions for future tutorials I could make, then please leave them down in the description below. I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.